good friend Brian Brinkley. And Brian, you are obviously navigating the wet weather over there. We saw it there in Norman in the Ole Miss Oklahoma game. How are you surviving the wet weather over there?
Well, it was a chaotic week here,
Yeah.
or last week was, at least. We had a bunch of high school games moved from Friday to Thursday, and that didn't work because it rained all Thursday night. So games got delayed and not finished till after 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning. And then we saw what it was like in Norman, at least in the first half on Saturday.
Yeah, and the defense really took one on the chin there as Lane Kiffin and company come back to win the football game over the Sooners. As you rewind that football game and as you rewind the stakes that are involved with it, we'll talk big picture in a moment, but just that game in a vacuum with what John Mateer was going to be able to do heading into it, what the defense allowed with Trinidad Chambliss in it. How do you digest what happened on Saturday and what it means for Oklahoma's immediate future?
I think the most shocking thing was how the defense played. OU's defense, even in the loss to Texas, was pretty sound most of the time, and I mean, Ole Miss kind of torched them.
Yeah,
Chambliss was something else. He did this is the second time he's done this to an Oklahoma team. When he was at Ferris State last year, they played Central Oklahoma in the playoffs in the snow, and they just went nuts. I think Ferris State won the game 78-17.
Wow.
So, and it was the most points UCO had given up since 1917 or something like that. So he did it again to an Oklahoma team. He was incredible. And I mean, Ole Miss was doing a lot of different things that Oklahoma just couldn't handle. And that's the most surprising thing of the day. The Sooners were able to respond there in the fourth quarter. Xavier Robinson was a key piece to the comeback, got a couple touchdown runs there and got OU back in front, but the defense could not make the stops. And then just a huge turnover on the punt return by Satania there mid-fourth quarter. That's just a critical mistake you can't make in a game like that.
Absolutely. You mentioned the 16 points there in the third quarter to eventually take the lead. But as you run down Oklahoma's the numbers overall, especially on offense, 4 for 14 on third downs, 1 for 3 on fourth downs. I mean, obviously it's still 300 plus yards on the game. But what do you make of where this offense is as they seemingly continue to struggle to play with the same consistency that they did at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, I think they're a little bit of a crossroads offensively here because Torrey Blaylock had been the main guy at running back. And then in my opinion, he makes a mistake there on the goal line. He's running along the goal line and gets tackled for a save. You've got to get out of the end zone. That is priority one.
Right.
He didn't do it. So then Xavier Robinson comes in, has a big game, but then Mateer clearly was just not the Mateer. I mean, he had his moments where he was really good, but as Ben Arbuckle said after the game, he had a lot of misses that he should have been able to hit on pass plays, and he just clearly has not been the same since the surgery on his hand. And I don't know if that's a mental thing or a physical thing, but they've got to get him back to playing the way he was early in the season. And the running game is still just kind of inconsistent. You don't really know what you're going to get from game to game there. And if they can get Blaylock and Robinson going together, then they got a pretty decent 1-2 punch there at the running back.
Right. Has Ben Arbuckle said anything specifically about what he thinks might be some of the offensive issues? Because it just looked like this Oklahoma team was just humming, and it looked like John Mateer was, setting himself up for a spot in New York for the Heisman Trophy, and it just seems that like it's weirder because it's not an overall collapse, because that's one thing that can be explained. It just feels like it's been disjointed.
Yeah, well, part of it I think is they're playing an SEC schedule, so we have to take that into account.
Absolutely.
These are the most difficult opponents John Mateer's ever had to face.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. The offensive line is getting nicked up, and maybe that's an understatement.
Yeah.
For they had problems there last year with the health, and that's starting to become a factor again. I don't think Arbuckle or Venables is not going to admit that that's an issue, but I think that's part of the problem at this point. And there just seems like they never seem like they got into a rhythm at all against Ole Miss. They couldn't. There was no consistency. They had one drive where they looked fantastic. Other drives they didn't look good at all, and that was even in the South Carolina game. It was like that, and they won that one.
Right. Got a chance to hear from head coach Brent Venables after the loss to Lane Kiffin and company on Saturday.
Yeah, no, I think we missed some opportunity. I don't know, setback, that's for everybody else to say. I certainly, losing ain't ever good, and there's nothing necessarily that, we're not going to be bragging on anything. There's nothing to brag about. We needed to coach them better and play better, be better situationally. We made some critical mistakes in the game, and if the players are making the mistakes on the field, then we got to look at ourselves and what we're asking them to do. But watched the tape already. Watched it in real time, and then watched it on the sideline, and watched it again. At halftime, and so. We needed to execute at a better level, and so if we're not executing like we need to, then that comes back to to us as a staff, and we got to do a better job having our guys ready to execute. Cleaner, play better football that way.
So this Arkansas defense, or not sorry, Arkansas, this Oklahoma defense has been kind of one of the bell cows for this football program in the first few weeks of the season. It's struggled here as of late. Now it's a trip. Now it's a game against Tennessee, who is probably one of the best, if not the best, offense in the country. What do you make here of this matchup? And are there some growing concerns that John Mateer and company will have to put up 30-plus, 40-plus possibly in order to come away with a win against Tennessee?
They may have to. I mean, this is definitely a kind of gut check moment for the Oklahoma defense. It's one thing, have an off day at home. They have got to be on their A game when they go to Knoxville on Saturday. It's going to be loud. It's at night. I've already seen the Vols are doing their dark mode for that game. So this is going to be a major test. And I think Brent Venables was as shocked as anybody about how the defense played against Ole Miss. So they are going to go back to the drawing board this week and get to work, and they have a major challenge on their hands on Saturday night.
Absolutely. I know it's been a long time. Time's been removed since Josh Heupel's time, both as a player there at Oklahoma. Is there any talk in Sooner Nation about the homecoming return there for Josh Heupel there in Tennessee?
Not quite as much as last year, obviously, when they came to Norman. You could tell, though, going into the game last year that meant a lot to him. He deflected all of that and said it was about the team. But, I mean, you probably saw the post-game celebration in the locker room. That was clearly an emotional game for Josh for a lot of different reasons. And so this is a little bit different, got a little bit different vibe with them being at home. The other thing I was surprised. I listened to Josh at his news conference today. It only lasted like about 7 minutes. I'm like, that's the entire news. There was one question about OU last year. There was a ton of them. Obviously, that was the first time. And it's still, as he said last year, he knows still knows a lot of people that are at OU or were there when he was there and are still big fans. So it's going to mean a little extra than it is for the other home games this year, but not anything quite to the level it was last year when he was coming to Owen Field.
Absolutely.